Welcome to the E-Commerce Momentum Podcast, where we focus on the people, the products, and the process of e-commerce selling today. Here's your host, Stephen Peterson.
Welcome back to E-Commerce Momentum Podcast. This is episode 28, Brandon Gompers. I love talking to a seller such as Brandon, a serial entrepreneur who has figured it out and applies it no matter what business he's in. So he started selling fruit on street corners in California when he was a kid. He did checking out pay-per-view boxing, and we talk about that. Pretty interesting. But each time a serial entrepreneur sets up systems and processes and puts them into place and just kind of makes it just a regular system, which allows them that freedom to do what they want. And in Brandon's case, he wants to be free. He loves to be able to take off and take 10-plus day trips, and we talk about that in this segment. I just think it's a great lesson for all of us to pay attention to. Let's get into the podcast. All right, welcome back to the E-Commerce Momentum Podcast, and tonight I'm really excited because I've been chasing this guy for about a year to get him on my show, and we hung out, I guess it was a year and change ago in Texas. And, man, that food was good. I still remember those tacos. Brandon Gompers. Welcome, Brandon.
Hey, thanks, Stephen. Appreciate you having me on.
You got to admit, that food was good, wasn't it, in Texas?
Yeah, I can't beat Torchy's tacos and just hanging out with good friends and having good food and good drinks.
Andy Slamans always brings up those tacos. He's like, remember those tacos? We should go. I missed you this year at CES. It was a lot of the same old crew, a lot of new people, a lot of amazing groups, and you know, it's similar to last year's CES. And I don't want to take anything away from the conference because it really was great, and there were some amazing speakers in that. But a lot of great activity happened. You know, you and I at the dinner table, or at the bar, or at the the lounge area, or in the rooms. You know, that was my experience. Did you have the same experience?
Yeah, I totally did. It was just, when you don't know what you don't know, and you can sit around with some like friends from Facebook, and then you transition to the real world and sitting at the bar and the lounge and the lobby, whatnot, and you can just talk about this stuff amongst like 3, 4, 5 people. Totally different than online. Fantastic. And I know I came away with a whole bunch of things that I went home, and I didn't actually even need to go home. I literally put things into action sitting right there on the couch at 2 a.m. with these people.
All right, now we're going to have to stop and pause. Give me an example of something that you literally were sitting there and said, aha, and you actually did.
Okay.
Because that's good. I mean, think about that. Chris Green will tell you that, 1,000 people buy his book, 10 people take action. So this is rare. Go ahead.
Okay, I was the guy who was using 30-up labels and running to Kinko's FedEx at 11 o'clock at night to print up my FNSKU stickers, and also manually entering UPC codes when I was listing in Seller Central. And when folks said, hey, you got to get this thing called a Dymo, you got to get these labels, get away from the 30-up, stop running to FedEx Kinko's, get a USB scanner. I literally opened up the Amazon Buyers app, and it was like about 1, 2 in the morning, and I literally bought everything right there within 10 minutes and had it waiting for me at my door by the time I got home from Dallas.
So you really took action. You heard something. You actually went back and put it into your business. Brandon, what did it do for your business? I mean, just a real-life example, because you don't really get a lot of those. So it's a big deal. So go ahead and tell us what it did for your business.
Oh, well, it saved me a lot of time from having to drive down to, Kinko's. Even when I put $10 on a prepaid card, I was thinking, oh, man, I really got me a business. And, in fact, I didn't really have much more than a cool hobby at the time. So as I've kind of brought on some processes and equipment, and my business has really transitioned, I definitely feel like I don't have a hobby anymore. It's truly, as much of a business as I can have at the current point.
Those tools buy you time, right? Because that's probably the most valuable thing you have right now is your time, right?
Yeah, and I was just doing things what I thought was the right way. I mean, I was the guy that was printing out the shipping labels on 8.5 by 11 paper, cutting them, and using Scotch tape. Running to Kinko's, doing the 30 ups, manually entering UPC codes, and having the $10 USB scanner. Boom, like instant efficiency. Buying a brother laser printer, like miracle to me. Just didn't think about it. It made sense, but when you don't know what you don't know, and you're sitting around at in the lobby of like a CES, for example, and people are telling you, hey, you want to be more efficient, you need to do this, this, and this. You just listen, and there's no need to put it on a list, and when you get home 2-3 days later, do it. Boom, just do it right there in between beer number 2 and beer number 3.
No, I agree. And, think about all the equipment. How much did it cost you? $700, right? Where can you start a business for $700? And especially that efficiency, because without that sounds horribly inefficient.
I actually think I spent maybe, I could be wrong, but I'm thinking maybe around $200 to $300.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, exactly. But just the fact of not having to get in my car and run to Kinko's at 11, it's only 2 miles away, 4 miles round trip, come home and find out, I'm 130 up sheet like short. There's just nothing more frustrating than having to, make 2 round trips to Kinko's at around midnight. It just sucks.
Yeah, and you can't get any flow. There's no flow. There's no process. I agree with you there.
There's definitely no flow, and I know better. And looking back over my shoulder, it's like, man, I'm glad I didn't spend too many months doing things inefficiently.
So that's the one of the benefits of going to a conference like that, or a meetup, or a gathering. Now, Brandon, you're out in LA, and so one of the interesting thing, it's only early afternoon there. So you have really, I think, done a very good job of creating a lifestyle type of business, right? And that seems to be your why, your goal. And one of the interesting things you mentioned to me offline was that you have an early entrepreneurial story. And I'm really interested to hear about how you got started on an entrepreneurial venture.
Sure. So bear with me. It's kind of long, kind of interesting. But I started about 34 years ago just selling fruit in Santa Monica, California on the street corner, setting up the table, setting up an old, 75-year-old Wayne scale, and just selling fruit with my brother, putting out the sign, similar to what kids do today with like a lemonade stand. Done things like building the lofts for the dorm students in college. That was a great, entrepreneurial, had to hustle, had to have your supplies, had to do a little forecasting. Went on to do something that I did recently for about 6 years, which is called piracy surveillance, which is an interesting business working with attorneys and private investigators. And there's no, physical product, just running teams of undercover agents for UFC and HBO pay-per-view boxing. So that was a great opportunity for me to learn how to build a team and build systems using technology, and to also help somebody build their business. Okay, so
now wait a second. You got to explain that a little bit, because that sounds kind of interesting. So if these are bars having showing the fight, and they have to pay a special fee, right? So was that what you were doing? Was out making sure that they are legitimately doing it, and if somebody wasn't paying that fee, that they get caught? Is that what it was?
Correct. The bars, the restaurants, the commercial business owners are supposed to buy a license for their establishment for a Pacquiao fight, a Mayweather fight, a particular UFC pay-per-view fight, and certainly they can, through technology, they can just kind of skirt the system and still show the event in their establishment and rake in thousands or tens of thousands of dollars on, entrance fees and food and beverage. And the UFC and HBO has an attorney, a team of attorneys who it would filter down to private investigators, who would then kind of hire subcontractors to say, go out, here's the list, we know who's authorized, you're the one with the list, the national list, So if you walk into that establishment and they're not on the list, but they're showing the event, then you know that they're basically stealing the signal and committing piracy. And, we need you to observe, take some pictures maybe, and then write up an affidavit, hand it in to the attorney. They do all the prosecuting. My hands are off. We get paid a very handsome commission per establishment. So that's essentially how it went, and I did it. And then I saw the opportunity to build a nationwide team of over 500 people who would work underneath me, and all of the production made the private investigator, whose name and license was on the paperwork, look very good to the attorneys, because his production was the highest in the country, because I had a team at times of 100, 120 people, and people kind of came and go. It was a very transient business, especially when you're hiring off Craigslist. And so I ran that for about 5 years and just kind of got burned out on it. And I'd say last year I told my friend, the private investigator, I'm out, because it was turning into the point where I would just get checks and not even be running teams anymore. And I finally got down to one person left, and I just cut them off. They were a pain in the ass, taking up my time when I was trying to focus on Amazon. And I just said, hey, it was a great run. After 5 or 6 years, I learned a lot, built teams, and now I'm back to focusing on what's more important to me.
That is really interesting. I always wondered how that worked. Thank you for explaining that. I don't know how it relates well to my show, but I just love it. Sorry, gotta answer my mind. Okay, so you were doing that, and then you were going on. So go ahead.
Yeah, and then I wound up about 4 years ago in nursing school to become a registered nurse, and that didn't work out. And the next thing I know, I'm sitting in front of my apartment on the steps, just wondering what the heck I'm going to do, and wound up taking a mobile marketing course. Okay, I'm hand is raised. I'm guilty of, finding nice shiny objects online. So I was one of the people. I got into mobile marketing, being a quote unquote offline consulting expert, dealing with text message marketing for restaurants, mobile apps, built the website, learned how to use WordPress, spent almost a year developing the company, learning about the software, and then going out, Stephen, having to go out and pound the pavement in 90-degree heat in the summer to get a hold of a manager at a restaurant, make presentations, book appointments, not make any sales because they just didn't believe in the system, or it was too expensive. It just stunk. And so it was a great learning experience. Didn't make one sale, and just tossed that business to the side. But
you learned enormous things, though. I mean, just the fact that you went and knocked on doors, that's a big step. Most people are afraid to do that, right? Talking to people when you're not going to make the sale, right? I mean, those are skill sets that probably transfer well to this business.
Oh, absolutely. It allowed me, in addition, to open up a company, a DBA, to go through the legal paperwork, to work with the bank manager, to get everything set up and fund the company account, establish credit lines, establish a good business relationship with the banking manager. But, those making the phone calls, and we'll talk about this later, having to make sales calls for appointments and just cold call and cold walk into stores. I mean, that's what Amazon sellers are doing, who are doing retail arbitrage and want the deal, right? They're walking
absolutely.
in. Where's the manager? Where's the owner of the liquidation place? So, in my previous life, I really honed a lot of skills that transitioned over into helping me out with FBA.
Well, I think there's two schools there, right? So as you said, the fact that you can approach somebody knowing that, you're going to make it win-win, because you're going to say, hey, I'm going to help you by moving a bunch of stuff. You're going to do a little selling, right? I mean, let's face it, it is selling. But then also that you know how to structure a business. You already have all that set up. That's another place where a lot of people fail in this business, is they fail to do that, and then all of a sudden they get a 1099 for $100,000, and they're saying, whoa, what do I do? So I think that's a great life lesson. Both of those really bring that to the table. That's great stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. And so when the mobile marketing business didn't work out, I found myself at the library renting Tim Ferriss' 4-Hour Work Week. I read half of that book and thought 50%, wow, this is great. I kind of want to go this way. And then 50%, not realistic. So, I kind of went through a phase of being all kind of bummed out that the one business didn't work out, and just keep on going is the attitude. And then I went for another shiny object, went for the drop shipping business. It had nothing to do with Amazon. It was strictly, let's set up a Shopify store, find products that sell, doing the research mainly through Google, and setting up a drop shipping and working with wholesalers, right? And I basically came to the point where I was like racking my brain, Stephen, with what niche do I come up with, right? I couldn't figure it out. It's kind of like how there's some Amazon sellers who just get stuck and think, I don't know what to sell. I mean, there's close to 466 million products in Amazon's catalog, and when people are sitting there and they're like, I don't know what to sell, right? It's crazy. And I went through that process in drop shipping. What the hell do I sell? And I think I wound up on like bird cages, just something totally stupid. I don't even have birds. I just did some research, found out there was a little market. Definitely not like passion based, right? And then I found myself sitting back of a Costco and listening to some podcasts. And one of the early podcasts and I know probably later you'll ask me like what podcasts I listened to, but I was listening to Terry Lynn's Build My Online Store. And he had 3 episodes in a row all about FBA. And I think Brad DeGraw was like one of the 3 people like interviewed.
Yeah, he's great. And
I was just like sitting there and I'm like, hell, I don't need to go into Costco. I'm going to listen to all 3 episodes. Right. So long story short, I bailed out of drop shipping and I was like, there's this opportunity I have. I like how this sounds. And it just happened that my dad was retiring from being an importer and a reseller in the glove business. So I grew up, 10, 11, 12 years old with the trucks pulling up behind our house, dropping off like pallets of merchandise for my dad. And I'd help him
so
out.
he was in the reselling of gloves?
Yeah, like chemical gloves, latex gloves.
Oh, wow, that's a huge business.
Gloves.
So was he importing them himself or buying them from a distributor?
Both.
Okay, or a wholesaler. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
He was doing both. So I grew up like, shooting hoop and playing basketball while watching my dad like unpack boxes and do the warehouse work that many of us do, even in our 340 square foot living rooms, right? Or a 60,000 foot warehouse. So I kind of grew up like around that. But my dad was retiring and he just had all this inventory and he said, hey, I'm going to like donate it. I just don't want to deal with like trying to have some kind of like garage sale and get rid of it. And I said, hey, why don't you let me like just go crazy in your warehouse? And he's like, yeah, have whatever you want. And I basically signed up for Amazon January 2014 and said, I'm going to go down to the warehouse. I'm going to bring my lunch. I'm going to bring my radio, my poly bags, and the knowledge that I had from reading the guidelines. And I went down there and just multi-packed the hell out of different like gloves because he had like, close to 300,000 pair. And they were either going to go to be donated to the Red Cross or, I could take a stab at it. So it was a great opportunity to work with some free product.
And how did that work out?
That worked out pretty good. It worked out great, mainly with the experience because my first thing I did right off the bat was I had to go in and create the listings, right? And you get sellers who have all this experience for many, many months or years. They've never made a listing. And then all of a sudden, they wind up in the Facebook group asking like all these questions when they know or they should have known there's guidelines that kind of walk you through doing that. So I read the guidelines. It just made sense to me to do that. I did all the product photography, everything, got them all set up, did the best I could with a pure white background. And I think it took like a week to start like selling something that was ranked like 1.1 million.
And were these weren't in the BISS category?
No, I think I put them. I forgot what section I put them in.
Okay,
but
something you didn't have to get ungated in.
Yeah, I didn't even the word ungating. Like I didn't even know like that wasn't even around back in January 2014. I just put them up what I thought was the right category and they just started like taking off. And I was like going back to my dad and saying, hey, I just sold a pair of this. He was as happy and as excited as me. He was like, wow,
that's cool.
That's pretty cool. And I thought the same
thing. That is
thing.
Cool. That really is cool. I mean, think about it. You see his son taking on this new venture. I mean, let's face it. Even in 2014, Amazon third-party selling hadn't really exploded as much as it is today. So that's really is pretty cool.
Absolutely. One of the best experiences of that came out of it was he basically said also, hey, if you want to, go and sell everything, right? And it's like down in a part of Los Angeles called the City of Commerce, right? And it's appropriately named because that's where the big rigs and the trains are running through that part of Los Angeles where a lot of wholesale is, a lot of liquidators. So I did a couple like Google searches, found some liquidators. I was like knocking on the front door, trying to get a hold of the owner to say, hey, I've got, 200,000 pairs of gloves. Do you want to make a deal? Whatever it is, 15, 20 cents a piece, whatever it is. And little did I know that like several months later, I'd be on the other side of the building at the back door coming in, and it would be like this ginormous like warehouse, liquidation, toys, clothing as far as the eye could see. But when I was in the office on the front side, I couldn't see any of the merchandise in the back. I didn't really understand. I was just there trying to sell 200,000 pairs of gloves. And as I get into FBA, I wind up calling back and saying, hey, I'm going to come on down. I know what's going on the other side of the building, and, got an account with them. And that's how the light bulb went off, like with local liquidation, not ordering stuff from outside of California and having it show up and you cross your fingers and hope everything looks good, but being able to go in and hand pick every single thing on a liquidator's like floor.
That's so important. I mean, you can physically see it, you can touch it, you can know the quality, because it is a gamble otherwise, and especially ordering liquidation from one of those big giant companies that are out there. When the pallet comes, 80% might be good if you're lucky, if you're lucky. Okay, so we're going to go to break, and when we come back, I'm really interested to talk about where your business is today, where it's going, and why you're making changes, because I'm really interested in that, and I think that's a great story. So let's go to break. We'll be right back. Today's podcast is brought to you by Seller Essentials, essential business solution for online sellers. Whether you sell general merchandise on Amazon or eBay, private label your own product, or if your focus is selling books, wholesale products, or liquidation lots, let Seller Essentials be your online resource for all things e-commerce. Essential resources, essential solutions, Seller Essentials, the Internet's premier venue for online professional. Visit selleressentials.com for more information. That's selleressentials.com. All right, before we jump back in, and it was a great segment. This segment, we spend a lot of time talking about where Brandon's going, and he's taken a lot of discipline to step back from sourcing. And it's hard because I know I'm getting these lists from everywhere and I'm seeing so what to buy. But he stepped back and said, I'm going to build a Shopify store. And he explains to us why he's going to build a Shopify store. He's one of the pioneers because Shopify and Amazon have a kind of a relationship now. And he's a pioneer in it, and he's ready to start rocking on it. But he's putting all his time and effort into it because he sees a future opportunity there. And we spend time talking about it in this segment. Let's get into the podcast. And we're back, and we're talking with Brandon Gompers. And Brandon is a seller from L.A., and we were just talking about really interesting part of L.A. with the City of Commerce and the ports. I mean, you have so much inventory coming into the country through any toys. I mean, I don't care what you're buying. They're coming from China generally. 99.99% of it comes from China. They're all coming through the California ports. And so, I'm sure the stranded inventory, all the craziness happens there, stuff getting damaged and that. And so you have access to that, and you've really done well with that. Now you've really started to change your business model, and I'm interested to hear, what you're doing today, where you're going, and then why. Can you walk us through that?
Sure. I really want to have, and this comes from when I previously bombed doing mobile marketing. I wanted to have a kind of a hands-off FBA type lifestyle and be able to do essentially what I want, when I want, because I'm a really bad W-2 employee. I like taking way too many breaks, and I just have it like ingrained in me from my parents being entrepreneurs, and my brother, to it's just something that I have to do. It makes me happy. I like to run my own show and want to create the lifestyle that I want, that allows me to do some traveling, and just to be able to go to the dentist, right, at like 1 PM if I want, or to go, visit my parents at 3 PM. Just to have that flexibility is so valuable to me.
Well, let me ask a question then, because that interests me. So and this isn't, you're in California, so space is a premium like any city, any real city. You're working out of a 340-foot room. I mean, that's what you're doing, and you're doing a great business, and you're working out of it. That doesn't bother you because you grew up in a family? I mean, do you get warehouse envy when you see the guys with the 60,000 square foot warehouse, or are you not smart enough? Are you experienced enough because of your family that you don't need that in your scenario because you really don't want to do it long term? Is that am I saying it right? Do you get where I'm going?
Yeah, I get it. I'm experienced enough in knowing myself to know that it's just not the right thing for me right now with what I'm doing in business and also in my personal life. So, previously, like I said about my entrepreneurial journey, I've set up teams, I've set up systems, I put those wheels in motion that help turn one another to become efficient. So I know it's on my plate. One day when I know I want to pull the trigger and do it, I can do it. It's just in my current place. I'm just fine with pushing the envelope as far as I can with working out of a 340 square foot living room.
I think that's such a great way to put it. Put one wheel next to another so they work together. You know where you're going, right? So why add all that encumbrance? Why bring all that burden upon yourself? And you're just going to keep working within those limitations because you know the end game. I just think that's so smart. That's such a great golden nugget there. You don't have to get to that giant size. To get to a giant size, there are lots of people that'll process your inventory for you. So anyway, I don't want to cut you off there. I just think that that's so important, and I knew there was a connection there. So you're now moving towards, you have a lifestyle business today, but you want to make it even more of a lifestyle business.
Yeah, I just want to be able to fund more vacations and be able to put more money aside in the bank.
You've taken 10 days off, you mentioned, and with an FBA business, and you don't shut it down. It still runs.
I've taken off a couple times, and I've gone to Hawaii. When I go to CES like last year, a couple of weeks ago, I went to the Magic Shoe and Apparel Show in Las Vegas. I was able to, prep accordingly ahead of time so I could focus on, vendor relationships. And I'm going for about 10 days in January to my wife's sister's wedding in the Philippines. Been there a couple times, and I'll have everything set. I'll push in my inventory and just be able to monitor pricing from an iPad or an iPhone on the beach.
And that's all because you've been able to enable these processes and put them in place. So let's talk about shoes. You are adding another venue to sell on, and I'm interested to find out more about that. You're one of the early adopters of the Shopify-Amazon relationship, right? So Shopify's been around a long time as a standalone, website where they have a shopping cart and they have all that jazz. But there's been a partnership with Amazon. I'm not really that familiar with it. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, regarding Shopify, as of today, if you build a Shopify store and you want to import your 100 SKUs of shoes, they do not, unfortunately, today have a bulk importing tool. I've expressed that it would be a very valuable tool for us Amazon sellers, but we're kind of on our own. So I know a friend of mine did it by basically exporting from Amazon into his WordPress site and then using cart to cart to then export from the WordPress site into the Shopify. So it was like an ABC type situation. There is no direct connection from Amazon to Shopify. Now, when it comes to the merchant fulfilling, yeah, there absolutely is a direct connection, and you can use various third-party apps to do the MCF fulfillment.
Okay, so like an auto MCF or something like that. Does Shopify, so when I buy a pair of shoes on Shopify in your store, and it's not going out and saying, hey, you had 29 in your Amazon store, take it to 28, it happens when you try to fulfill it. That's when it takes it out of Amazon's inventory. Is that correct?
Correct. All the syncing with the third-party apps will help, and that's certainly a necessity, is to reflect the correct quantity between Shopify and what you have in the fulfillment center.
I just interviewed Michael Markison, and he was talking about using Bonanza. And Bonanza syncs up automatically with eBay and with Amazon. And when you buy something in Bonanza, it automatically updates the inventory in Amazon for you, right? So I'm wondering if that's the next thing. You say there are some third-party softwares that'll handle that?
The third-party softwares handle the syncing of the inventory quantities and talking to Amazon and saying, fulfill this order from my FBA inventory, send it to the buyer. But they unfortunately cannot help with importing 100 different shoes with the title, the bullet points, the picture. You have to go the long way and bring it into your WordPress site first, or manually do each one in Shopify.
Okay, and so Bonanza allows them all to come over, so that's a big item. So let me just think about this. So when I order out of Amazon, that will not affect the number that's listed on the Shopify site. That would again go through the third-party software. That somehow that has to sync for you, right?
Correct.
Okay, so there is a way to do it. I'm trying to make sure I get my mind. So you're going to a Shopify website. Why?
I'm going to a Shopify website for one main reason, and then a small other reason that I just didn't think of. Like, if you asked me that a month ago, I wouldn't even mention what I'm about to. But it's primarily for, when you're getting in with shoe brands, it's a heck of a lot harder, right? Getting an account to sell a cheese slicer or garlic press, easy peasy. But they guard their shoe brands. It's not easy. They primarily want brick and mortar stores, which I don't have. So the next best thing that I have, which sometimes they require if you're an Amazon seller, is, hey, not only, it's okay, you can sell on Amazon, but you really need to have your own other platform as well. So I can have FBA, I can have my own .com platform. So I have 2 out of 3. And that helps in the conversation because the reps will go to bat for me when they're presenting my quote-unquote case to the CEO of the company, if, in fact, that person's the one that's going to make the call on whether I get the wholesale account or not. Okay, the other small reason is that with the environment of, like, suspensions, right? Like a month ago, I would have said, oh, heck no, I'm 100% FBA. I'm all invested in it. I don't want to, diversify. That's different. My thinking changed a couple of weeks ago. You never know. And so I do want to have my own site. Yeah, it's not just to show the shoe vendors, but yeah, I really would like to get some sales off of it.
So you want to grow a real organic business there and hopefully someday have your own line. Do you have an advantage because you're in California? Because I assume most of the shoes are made overseas, of course, and they're coming through those ports too. Do you get a shipping advantage there?
I don't think I do. No, a lot of the shoes are in Ohio and New Jersey. They're in Canada. They're up in Oregon. They're all over the place.
Okay.
The only advantage that I have versus somebody who lives a heck of a lot further from Las Vegas is, my drive is only 4.5 hours. So not a big deal to go to the trade shows there.
Now, right now you're doing your own processing or you're bringing in some help to help you. What's your plan for the future, especially as you try to get to a complete hands-off model?
Well, right now I have one helper. It's basically a neighbor who's going through some times of unemployment and needs some work, and he's more than happy to help me out. I'll probably bring on another person soon, perhaps maybe even from the neighborhood, because I live a couple blocks from UCLA. So I have a lot of smart kids over there who may want some extra money. And like I said earlier, when I feel it's right and I know it's the right time and I'm at that level to either move into a bigger house or apartment or go get a warehouse, I'll pull the trigger. I just want to be comfortable when I make that decision and have the funds to back it up. And that's why I think it's so important for people to peel off a percentage of their disbursement check, so to speak, from Amazon and go sock that money away. Go put it in an account that you don't touch. It's not for paying sales tax. You have another account for that. This is literally if the S hits the fan, I've got $10, $20, $30,000 just sitting there that I peeled off smartly from my disbursements.
That's sound. You know, Dave Ramsey would tell you to do that personally, have a 3 to 6 month cushion. But he also says that if you read EntreLeadership for your business, you need that 3 to 6 month cushion too. And I just think that's so smart. Again, I don't think most people are doing that because, you know, I just did another interview, and the phrase that he used was most people are a solopreneur in this business. They have not made it to the entrepreneur level where they can ask for help and get help. And I think there's some truth to that. And so becoming more of a professional and really getting those ducks in a row is so important. That's really good stuff. So you don't have a fear then. You're planning it because you've seen it. I'm sure your family, if they were entrepreneurs, had some success, but they've also had some failure. So you've seen that failure. I guess you experienced some of that yourself. So you don't have a fear. You're just not going to make fatal choices. Is that a better way to say it?
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. I don't have a fear of being an entrepreneur. I've done it. I'm a serial entrepreneur. I've done it so many times. Like I said, from selling fruit to building lofts to, you know, running surveillance crews to being an FBA seller. I don't have fear. It's a challenge that I love. And when it works out, it's even more exciting, right? When you like check your orders 20 times a day, when that dashboard's like giving you the high five, that just makes you want to keep on going more. But I am now more analytical, even though I'm a pretty analytical person. I choose more carefully. I focus on things a lot more. I don't just run around doing bolo chasing like I've done in the past. I'm a lot more focused. And that's what I would tell somebody who's unfocused or a newer seller listening to your podcast. Pick something, focus on it, and just like dive into it. Be the best that you can at it. Right? If you want to be the bundle king, go talk to the bundle queen. Right? Go talk to Deborah. Go talk to Catherine. Get into something and stick with it, and don't be afraid to try things out. And that's what I'm doing with shoes right now and clothing.
I totally agree. You mentioned Deborah. That's Deborah Conrad and Catherine Shelton.
Correct.
If anybody doesn't know who those are, they are superstars of bundling. And I think Deborah even has a course on it. I mean, just amazing. I agree with you. You have to master something before you can move on to the next level. That was R.E.A. Shinebine's advice, exactly the same thing. Master it. You know, if something's working well and then all of a sudden you hear that private label's really good, maybe I should move. No. Stay at what you're doing working well. As a matter of fact, work it harder and make it do really well for you until it can't anymore. Once you're at that point, then you move on to something else. I think that's great advice.
Yeah, and taking my own advice where, previously I sometimes didn't. I feel good about what I'm doing, even though my revenue's down a little bit for 2 months in a row. I'm fine with that because I'm not chasing the easy low hanging fruit, and I'm focusing on a category, shoes and clothing, and I want to learn it. It's not easy. You can't just look at keep charts and rank, and there's a lot more to it that you need to understand, and that comes with time. So I'm not afraid to, give things a try, give it my all, knowing that I can go back to other sourcing methods and tweak my business model as needed. But I see the light in those two, particular ungated or gated categories, and I'm going to go for it. and that's why I schlep all the way to Vegas and live in the Luxor for 5 days to do analysis on a laptop in the lounge and not hang out and socialize like I did at the ASD show. It's all work now. So I'm just becoming way more serious about it, and I have faith that it's going to pay off.
I think it's really smart, and I think those categories are absolutely the right categories to be in. Harder to get in, harder to find things because, as you say, the ranking's not right. Lots of stuff isn't there, but the sales price is so much higher. So when 30 or 40% of an $80 sale is a lot of money. I mean, it's a great return, but it's a lot of money. And so I think you're absolutely right when you can, you can even do better than that in some cases. But I mean, you're really bringing that average selling price up. Now, the advice I give people too is don't go with credit in that because that's a very expensive, a long-term selling that takes a while to fill a pipeline. Shoes take a while, and I have about 14 or 15% returns. Is yours similar?
Yeah, you nailed it. Mine's, I think I just looked at it the other day, was 14.3 or something like that.
Right, and that's part of the business. That doesn't mean you're getting them returned. That means that somebody bought them, tried them on, and they didn't fit. I mean, think about that. That happens a lot. In the store, it's easy. But as the world moves towards a e-commerce shopping method, this is going to happen more and more. But you know what? So they come back. So you just know that, they might sell the first time. They might sell 2 or 3 times sometimes. But they do eventually almost all sell.
Exactly. And I'll tell you, Stephen, I pay particular attention to many metrics or data points that are right in front of everybody's eyes on the Amazon detail page, starting with right underneath the title, right? The fit as expected. I mean, I don't go for shoes. I don't care what the rank is. If the fit as expected is, 30, 40%, let's take 40%. That means to me, 60% of people say, hey, the shoe doesn't fit. It's a return.
So 6 out of 10. 6 out of 10 are coming back to you.
I don't want anything to do with that. That's a dog.
That's a great. That's
Keep
a
it
great.
away from me. I'm going to go find
tip.
another shoe that is more my liking. For example, like a 70% and above fit as expected, and then I'll mix it in and take a look at the other data points as well, including manually going in and reading the reviews. Which colors are selling, have the highest frequency of sales.
I think here's another point, and I think it's not so obvious, but when you think about it, it really is. It's because you're selling a higher average selling priced item, and let's assume you're still making the same margins as you would on other items. You're not going to sell as many of them, right? That's fine to have the same amount of sales. So that means you have more time to do exactly what you're saying. So you're choosing to invest your time into really knowing the product, really fine-tuning it, making the right choice up front. In the end, you're going to make just as much money. Instead of selling 1,000 products, you only sold 500 or 300 products, but you make just as much money, and the rest was being more certain about a product. I think it's really, really smart, Brandon.
Stephen, you just hit the nail right on the head. Like I said, I alluded to earlier, my total gross revenue right now is down slightly, and I'm okay with that because, again, I'm focusing on shoes. But guess what? My profits are way up. I'm making more money, doing less work.
Are your inventory turns, now this is hard to measure because you're in a product that has a longer lead time. So, it's all relative. So, we can't compare this to bags of chocolate or candy or something where, or deodorant or toothpaste. But from where you were starting on when you started in the shoe category, are you starting to see a faster turn of shoes because you're really investing all that time in it?
It really has to do with the brand of the shoe. And I've got, and this goes back to relationship building. I've got relationships with, I'll just tell you right now in your audience, I've got a relationship with Crocs, with management, right? And that brand, I turn that a lot quicker. I've got some that just take longer to sell, and I got some that sell multiple every day. So it really depends, because part of selling shoes, I want that fast turn, or at least as fast as possible. And then I've got those supposed Amazon to Amazon flips, which to me really should be more Amazon speculative instead of being called a flip, more of a spec. because until it's sold, it hasn't flipped.
Yeah, no, I agree
right?
with you there.
So I'm okay with that going in and knowing that I've got a handful or a large handful of SKUs for the fourth quarter. I set that money aside for, I'll call that a test for testing.
How many SKUs are you up to? How many shoe SKUs are you up to? Individual stock keeping units, that's what a SKU is. So a 7 is one, an 8 is another, a 9 is another. That's 3 separate SKUs. How many do you have?
Give or take 100.
Okay. And have you obviously have fine-tuned that list, right? So what's your advice to somebody new coming into the shoe? Go wide, go deep? What's your advice?
My advice is go wide. Go wide, test.
So what does wide mean? Is it 1 pair? Is it 3 pairs? Is it 5 pairs? Is it 10 pairs?
It could be anywhere from 3 to 5 different sizes, and buying 1 or 2 of each size. So you might be in for a total of 10 items in your cart, either online arbitrage or retail arbitrage, like literally having to buy 10 to run a test on that line.
Okay, and so you're putting those in. You try to stay in one brand or whatever when you're testing, and you're watching how fast they turn, seeing what sizes. Now you've obviously have figured out what sizes are the best sizes for men and the best sizes for women. Could you let us in on that secret?
Yeah, well, just to kind of back up, I go with all different kinds of brands. Besides, Crocs do well for me, but I mean, I've got Vans, Steve Madden. I mean, I've got all kinds of different brands, and some have more success than the others. And again, I'm kind of waiting to see what the holidays bring, if it's going to be successful or not for other brands that I bought that aren't moving necessarily quick today. But as far as sizes go, women's, I would say 8, 9, and 10 are your big movers. Now, do I buy 5s and 6? Sure. Do I buy 11? Sure. I kind of want to be the person who, when that individual who has a size 11 foot needs that shoe, I want to be there on Amazon to have that item in stock. And at the prices that I get my shoes at, it's not a big deal to go in and buy like 1 or 2 of size 11 or 1 or 2 of size 5 or 5.5.
Again, that's that wide, not deep, right? That's that wide. Yep.
Correct. And then, as I see a particular shoe selling, I will go deep, and deep in shoes to me is way different than going deep in, groceries or toys. Deep might mean I buy 15 pairs, right, or 18 pairs. To me, that's kind of at where I'm at currently. That's deep. Maybe, you talk to me in like a year and a half, I might kind of laugh at that comment I just made and say, man, deep is like we're talking 300 pairs.
Right. But you're talking one size. So you're talking 15 to 18 of women's size 8 of this style. So, and by the time you get through, a few sizes and a few styles, you're buying several hundred pairs of shoes. So
yeah, and I think it's really important to keep track. I use a pre-programmed Excel spreadsheet from a friend that knows how to program macros a lot better than I do, which helps with seeing your return rates on your SKUs and being able to visually look on your screen and say that one's a cash cow, that one's a dog.
So you're literally tracking every sale, especially when you're in the testing phase, and you're watching to see how quick something turns, how quickly, as you said, it's returned, how quickly you get your money back. I mean, you've got all that stuff, all those metrics you're looking at?
Yeah, absolutely. And when I'm done running the numbers on the Excel spreadsheet for my return rates, I like to go back to the listing page and, again, look at that fit as expected and see if it makes sense, where I have a SKU on an Excel spreadsheet that tells me, hey, this shoe is getting returned like 60% of the time. And, hey, no wonder the fit as expected on the Amazon page is like 30%. And it's like, hey, dummy, why'd you buy that shoe? Well, I did, right? Live and learn is all I'm saying.
And so you fine-tune that. So that's probably why you're paying a lot more attention to those customer ratings and stuff, right? I mean, that means a lot more. Most people would glance right over it. So I think that's great advice.
Absolutely, because I held off on going into private labeling, and I had the money to do it. And so that cash that was available for that venture is what I'm basically using for shoes.
How about men's sizes? What are the main men's sizes?
9, 10, 11, occasionally a 12.
9, 10, 11, and sometimes a 12. Okay.
Yeah. Now, I'll also say, I like to specialize in the more what I call hard to find shoes, your double E's, your triple E's. Those are your, wide and your super wide, or your like double A's for women, right? Your like super narrows. Because those are frequently the ones when you go on Amazon and you go to like select in the drop-down box on like a blue and gray Croc, for example, it's grayed out. It's probably been out of stock for a long time. I like to go in and fill the gap. And that's what helps me when I'm talking to shoe brands when trying to get a wholesale account, is to let them know, hey, I want to fill in the gap and start ordering some things that most of your retailers might not want to order.
That's great advice right there. That's a great tip. So you see it. We all see it. If you look at these shoes, lots of them are grayed out. And so you're saying, hey, let me have that and let me really represent your brand well on Amazon. Do you have to agree to a lot of MAP agreements when you're getting wholesale shoe accounts today? Throw them in your face a lot?
Yeah, and I got no problem with that.
Yeah. Well, it's a big benefit. I mean, absolutely, it's a benefit. So that's great. Okay. All right. I'm really impressed with what you're doing. I love the reason you're doing it. I think it's just so smart. I think you're in the lead. Lots of people talk about it, but you're actually doing it, and you're really living and breathing it. And you pulled your scale back to work on it, but what has it done for you? Because you've paid more attention to it, you're going to make more money because of it. So I think it's, somebody just told me this, one thing leads to another. I think this is, what's happening for you. And really well done, Brandon. Really well done.
Thanks,
All right,
Steven.
you gave me Terry Lynn, and you gave me Brad DeGraw, who is very impressive, of course. Any other podcasts or books that you are using for your business to help move forward?
Yeah, when it comes to podcasts, I listen to a lot more podcasts than I read books. I mean, I read The Everything Store. I thought that was great. But specifically when it comes to podcasts, I love listening to Thrifting for Profit. I love it when Deborah and Charlene just get in there and hammer on some topics. So that was one of the first podcasts that I started listening to, and I still listen to it today. I love listening to Kat Simpson, That Cat Radio. She just loves grinding away at those hosts and getting the details, and that's a great one. And then one from outside the Amazon space is Andrew Youderian, Youdarian. Andrew Youderian's podcast called Ecommerce Fuel. And he comes from the more of like the WordPress, Shopify area, doing, Google Analytics, AdWords, and just really, about researching and launching an e-commerce store. So I've been following Andrew for about a year or two.
That's great. And, it's all related. Again, these are all pointing you in a direction that you're going and reinforcing what you're doing. So I think that's great. Mm-hmm. All right. Well, the goal of this podcast is to help people move forward. And I think you've given us a lot of great information to do that. But give me one more tip that we can put in place tomorrow that they can move forward. They get past stuck.
Okay. And I did prepare for this one. I would say review your buy box percentage and take action when necessary as appropriate. Okay, go into your Seller Central, go into reports, go into your business reports by ASIN, and sort and pay attention to your buy box percentage. Okay, and that might mean if you have a repricer, go visit your repricing strategy. And bottom line, move your sleeping dogs, because those are your bad buys, and replace them with cash cows. Keep the wheel turning, money in, money out. Okay, as Steve Sawyer told me, some great advice: spend the money, but spend it as smartly as you can. And because we all start to get a lot of SKUs and we forget we bought, this product or that product, 4 or 5 months ago, review your buy box percentage and take the necessary action to get in the buy box, because that's where the action's at.
Smart. Brandon, great advice. That is actually very relevant. I have a great podcast coming up about this very issue about buy box and some things that have happened, and so I'm really excited about that. So this is great advice. I really appreciate it. Brandon, how can our listeners get in touch with you, find out more about you, ask you a question, just find out how you're doing?
I'm out there on Facebook. Best way, just find me, Brandon Gompers. There's, I think, just one of me out there. Not too hard to find. And I'll be more than happy to answer any questions that people have.
And I'll have all the links in here. I really appreciate you taking the time tonight, and I just think you're doing great things. I can't wait to get an update from you as we're sitting on some island down in the Caribbean or somewhere for 10-plus days. I can't wait to be there with you. So, hey, thanks very much. Wish you and your family nothing but the best.
Hey, Stephen, thanks for having me on. It was fun, enjoyable, and keep up the great work. I love your podcast.
Thank you. Good night.
Take care.
Thanks for listening to the E-Commerce Momentum Podcast. All the links mentioned today can be found at ecommercemomentum.com under this episode number. Please remember to subscribe and like us on iTunes.